The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. On leaving the synagogue, Jesus entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with a fever. They immediately told Jesus about her. Jesus approached, grasped her hand, and helped her up. Then the fever left her, and she waited on them. When it was the evening after sunset, they brought to Jesus all who were ill or possessed by demons. The whole town was gathered at the door. And Jesus cured many who were sick with various diseases, and he drove out many demons, not permitting them to speak because they knew him. Rising very early before dawn, Jesus left and went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Simon and those who were with him pursued him, and on finding him, they said, "Everyone is looking for you." Jesus told them, "Let us go on to the nearby villages, that I may preach there also. For this purpose have I come." So Jesus went into the synagogues, preaching and driving out demons throughout the whole of Galilee. The Gospel of the Lord. As I said earlier in the Mass, today all the readings we heard about is all about work, earthly work that would take us days and nights to do every day. Even Jesus, the Son of God, had to work hard. He was teaching in the synagogue, and then he went to heal Peter's mother-in-law at her house, and then he was healing people until dark. But the next day, he went to pray early in the morning. Then he moved on to the next town. So we see Jesus' example of his own workday, that each one of us is also invited to value our work in the same way, so that through the fruits of our work, we can help ourselves and help others, and we can benefit both our body and our souls from it. So the first thing I'd like to share with you today is the invitation to work, and to work with joy, knowing that our work would benefit others, and believing that God would be pleased with what we do. We would be able to make the best out of every day. And there was a story of a man whose daily job was to gather the woods in the forest. The wood load was heavy, and his stomach was empty, so he always complained about his job, and he wished that death would just come and take him, because he would feel too miserable already. And one day, as he just finished his wish that death would come, death actually appeared. With the fatal shears in his hand, his ragged, smoky black cloak was flying in the air, and his face was hidden under the dark hood. So death asked the man, "What did you wish me to do for you?" Being so scared of seeing death, the man was shaking, and with a trembling voice he said, "Would you mind help me put the woods in my shoulder?" So death helped him as he asked, and the man quickly ran away with the woods. No more would he feel heavy, and no more would he ever complain again. In the second reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, St. Paul told us about the contrast between working as an obligation and working willingly. If we work willingly with joy in our hearts, we would be rewarded with more than we would expect. Just as the work of preaching the gospel of God to people, if we do it as we live, with love and kindness and mercy, it wouldn't make it a burden, but a joyful thing to do. And St. Augustine has a saying, "Where there is love, there's no labor. But even if there's labor, that labor is love." Where there is love, there's no labor. But even if there's labor, that labor is love. If we really love someone, we wouldn't feel tired or feel like we are forced to do something. We would even do things that we would never do for our loved ones, or things that we often hate to do in normal context. If we do everything, every little thing, with just a little love in it, it would already make a difference in our attitude. So the second thing I'd like to share with you today is to try to put love in everything we do and think, so that we would feel less burdensome, less stressed, but more joyful, and more kindness would be shown. And there was another story of another man who often went to a quiet place in the forest alone. So one day his girlfriend was curious, so she followed him. When she saw him sitting quietly in the forest, she asked, "What are you doing here?" The man answered, "I am praying." The girl asked, "But why do you have to go this far to pray? Couldn't you pray at home?" The man responded, "I feel closer to God in here." The girl said, "But God is everywhere. You can find God anywhere." The man answered, "Yes, you're right. God is everywhere, but I am not God. I am not myself out there. When it is quiet, it is only me and God and nothing else." We heard in the gospel today that after a long day of work, Jesus found a quiet place early in the morning to pray. He could have prayed anywhere, at any time, but he found a quiet time and a quiet place to pray, so that he could be wholeheartedly with God without anything distracting him, just like us here and the music on the other side is distracting us. Our modern life today always bombards us with lots of noise and information and pressure. That is why many people are going to retreats and all kinds of pilgrimages in faraway locations just to find some peace of mind, so that they could reflect on their own lives and their relationship with God. Even Jesus, who was the Son of God, also found a need to pray and a need to be by himself, to settle his mind down, to settle his body down, and to recharge before he could move on. So, my sisters and brothers, in this fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time, let us pause for a moment and reflect on the 3 points that I have shared with you today. First, let us work and work with joy, knowing that our work would benefit others and believing that God would be pleased with whatever we do. Second, let us put love in everything we do and think, so that we would feel less burdensome, less stressed, but more joy and kindness would be shown. And third, let us never forget to find God in our prayers and to settle down in silence after our busy days. Keep calm and carry on with God's help. Work and work with joy. Put love in everything we do and think, and never forget to find God in silence and in prayer. May God, who has begun a good work in us, also bring it to fruitful completion. Amen.